Picture this, the moment you stop chasing, stop over-explaining, and stop making yourself endlessly available, everything changes. The woman who knows where to draw the line becomes unforgettable. Men don't become obsessed because of beauty alone. They become captivated by mystery, confidence, and self-respect. Today, you're about to discover the one boundary that instantly changes how you're seen, valued, and pursued. If you've ever wondered why some women naturally command attention without begging for it, stay with me until the end. This lesson could completely transform the way you approach relationships and the way people treat you forever. Let me tell you something that a whole lot of people don't want to hear because it forces them to look in the mirror. Too many women spend their energy trying to convince someone to love them, notice them, choose them, or stay. They think if they text a little more, give a little more, forgive, one more excuse, or become whatever that person wants, they'll finally receive the love they've been chasing. But that's not how respect works. And it's definitely not how real attraction is built. The moment you begin chasing validation, you hand over your power. You're silently saying, my worth depends on whether you approve of me. And the truth is, the person who holds the power in any relationship is the one who never forgets their own value. You don't wake up every day wondering if you're enough. You wake up knowing you are. That's a completely different mindset. And people can feel that energy before you ever say a word. See, confidence isn't loud. It doesn't need to announce itself. It doesn't need to compete with anyone else in the room. A confident woman walks into a room knowing exactly who she is, and she doesn't spend the rest of the day trying to prove it. She isn't desperate for compliments because she already respects the person she sees in the mirror. That kind of confidence is rare, and rare things naturally attract attention. Now let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed how the more someone pulls away, the harder people often chase them? That's because people are naturally drawn to what they believe has value. But don't misunderstand this. This isn't about playing games or pretending you don't care. It's about genuinely building a life that doesn't revolve around someone else's approval. When your happiness comes from your purpose, your peace, your growth, and your relationship with yourself. People stop becoming your destination. They become your addition. You don't have to answer every text the second it arrives. You don't have to explain your worth to someone who refuses to see it. You don't have to shrink yourself just to fit into somebody else's expectation. The right people won't require you to constantly audition for a place in their lives. They'll recognize your value because you recognize it first. Here's what happens when you stop seeking validation. Your conversations become more genuine. Your decisions become stronger. Your standards become clearer. You stop accepting breadcrumbs because you finally understand you're worthy of the whole loaf. You stop fearing rejection because rejection no longer defines you. If someone walks away, you don't fall apart. You keep walking toward the life you're building. And let me tell you something powerful. People respect what they can't manipulate. The minute someone realizes your self-worth isn't controlled by their attention, their compliments, or their presence, the entire dynamic changes. That's when curiosity grows. That's when respect deepens. That's when people begin to see you differently, not because you changed for them, but because you finally chose yourself. Never chase validation. Chase becoming the best version of yourself and let the right people catch up. Now here's the boundary that separates temporary attention from lasting respect. Don't give unlimited access to your time, your energy, or your heart before someone has earned it. That's one of the biggest mistakes people make in relationships. The moment they meet someone they like, they rearrange their entire life. They cancel plans, ignore personal goals, answer every phone call, reply to every text within seconds, and become emotionally available 24 hours. A day they believe that giving more will make someone appreciate them more. But life doesn't work that way. Think about it. The things we value the most are usually the things that require effort. Nobody feels proud of something they received without earning it. Respect grows when people understand that your time is valuable, your attention is valuable, and your presence is valuable. If you hand all of that away without any investment from the other person, you remove the opportunity for them to prove they deserve it. Now don't confuse boundaries with playing games. There is a huge difference. Playing games is pretending not to care when you actually do. Boundaries are caring enough about yourself that you refuse to abandon your peace for anyone. One is manipulation. The other is self-respect. A healthy boundary isn't designed to make someone chase you. It's designed to protect the life you worked so hard to build. Your life should never stop because someone new entered it. Keep chasing your goals. Keep spending time with your family. Keep investing in your career, your health, your purpose, and your dreams. A relationship should fit into your life, not become your entire identity. The strongest women don't disappear the moment they start dating someone. They remain connected to the things that made them confident before the relationship ever began. Watch people's actions, not just their words. Anybody can tell you they're serious. Anybody can promise forever. But consistency is expensive. Consistency takes discipline. It takes intention. It shows up on the days when excitement fades and real character has to take over. Don't be impressed by big speeches. Be impressed by repeated actions. Words introduce people. Actions reveal them. And here's another truth that changes everything. Stop feeling guilty for saying no. No is a complete sentence. You don't have to explain why you're protecting your peace. You don't owe everyone unlimited access to your emotions, your schedule, or your attention. The people who truly respect you won't be offended by your boundaries. In fact, they'll admire them because they understand that someone who respects themselves is capable of respecting others. When someone has to earn your trust instead of receiving it or what they're building with you, they know your loyalty isn't cheap. Your kindness isn't weakness. Your love isn't available to everyone. That's what creates real value. People protect what they had to earn. Always remember this. Your time is your life. Every minute you give away is something you'll never get back. Spend it with people who show you through their actions that they value your presence as much as you value your own. Protect your time, protect your peace, and let people earn the privilege of being part of your life. Let me tell you something that changes the way you look at relationships forever. Never lower your standards just because you're afraid of losing someone. Fear has convinced too many people to settle for less than they deserve. They ignore disrespect because they don't want to be alone. They excuse broken promises because they're afraid no one better will come along. They keep holding on to people who keep giving them reasons to let go. And before they know it, they've sacrificed their confidence, their peace, and their identity just to keep someone who never truly valued them. Listen carefully. Love should never require you to betray yourself. If you have to shrink your dreams, silence your voice, ignore your instincts, or accept treatment that hurts your spirit just to make a relationship survive, then you're not protecting love. You're protecting fear. And fear has never built a healthy relationship. See, standards are not walls built to keep people out. Standards are filters that help the right people find their way in. They communicate something powerful without you having to say a word. They say, I know who I am. I know what I deserve. And I'm not willing to trade my self-respect for temporary attention. That's not arrogance. That's maturity. That's emotional strength. Some people will tell you your standards are too high. They'll say you're asking for too much. But ask yourself this. Is expecting honesty too much? Is expecting consistency too much? Is expecting loyalty, respect, communication, and effort too much? No, those aren't impossible expectations. Those are the foundation of any relationship worth building. The people who complain about your standards are often the same people who don't want to meet them. Here's what I've learned. The right person won't be intimidated by your standards. They'll be inspired by them. They won't ask you to become less so they can feel like more. They'll rise to the occasion because they recognize your value. Real love doesn't ask you to lower the bar. Real love climbs over it. And let me challenge you with something. Stop falling in love with potential. Stop convincing yourself that one day they'll change if you just wait a little longer. Judge people by what they consistently do, not by what they occasionally promise. Hope is a beautiful thing, but hope without evidence becomes an excuse to stay where you're being undervalued. When someone repeatedly shows you inconsistency, believe them. When they continue to disrespect your boundaries, believe them. When they make you question your worth instead of reminding you of it, believe what their actions are telling you. The truth is always louder than the excuses. Understand this. Being alone is not the worst thing that can happen to you. The worst was someone who slowly convinces you that accepting less is normal. Solitude can heal you. The wrong relationship can break you. Never confuse company with happiness. Every time you refuse to tolerate disrespect, you're sending a message, not just to the other person, but to yourself. You're proving that your self-worth isn't negotiable. You're building confidence every time you walk away from what no longer aligns with your values. And confidence earned through self-respect is something nobody can take from you. So stop asking whether you're enough for the wrong person. Start asking whether they bring in enough honesty, consistency, and respect into your life. The moment you stop lowering your standards to keep someone, you make room for the kind of relationship you've truly been praying for. Never trade your standards for someone's attention, because what costs your self-respect is always too expensive. Now let me share something that most people don't discover until they've wasted. Years arguing, explaining, and trying to prove their worth. One of the strongest boundaries you can ever set is knowing when to stop talking. Not because you have nothing to say, but because you've realized that not everyone deserves an explanation. There comes a point where your silence speaks louder than another paragraph, another phone call, or another emotional conversation. Too many people believe that if they can just find the right words, they'll finally make someone understand. They explain why they're hurt. They explain why they deserve better. They explain why the relationship matters. They explain the same thing over and over, hoping that eventually the other person will change. But here's the truth. Someone who genuinely values you doesn't need endless explanations to treat you with respect. If they wanted to understand your heart, they would. If they cared enough to protect your peace, they wouldn't keep putting you in a position where you have to defend it. Understand this. There is a difference between healthy communication and endless justification. Healthy communication happens when two people are willing to listen, learn, and grow together. Endless justification happens when one person keeps talking while the other keeps making excuses. That's not communication. That's emotional exhaustion. I've seen people spend months trying to convince someone to love them correctly. They write long messages. They make late night phone calls. They replay the same conversations in their minds, wondering what else they could have said. Meanwhile, the other person has already shown through their actions exactly where they stand. When actions and words don't match, stop believing the words. Actions always tell the truth. You don't have to react to every disappointment. You don't have to answer every insult. You don't have to defend yourself against every false accusation. Emotional maturity is knowing that not every battle deserves your energy. Sometimes the strongest response is no response at all. Not because you're weak, but because you've become wise enough to recognize that your peace is more valuable than winning an argument. Think about people who truly command respect. They don't lose control every time someone disagrees with them. They don't chase after every person who misunderstands them. They stay calm. They stay focused. They let their character do the talking. That's real strength. Anybody can raise their voice. Anybody can react in anger. But it takes discipline to stay composed when your emotions are begging you to explode. And here's something powerful. Silence isn't punishment. Silence is protection. It's the space where you regain clarity instead of making decisions from frustration. It's where you remember your value instead of begging someone else to recognize it. When you stop reacting impulsively, you start responding intentionally. That's when people notice the difference. They realize they can no longer control your emotions because you've learned to control them yourself. Don't mistake silence for surrender. Sometimes walking away quietly requires more courage than standing fighting. It takes strength to leave a conversation that keeps disrespecting you. It takes confidence to let go of the need to have the last word. The last word doesn't change a person's character. Your boundaries do. So the next time someone repeatedly ignores your feelings, breaks your trust, or refuses to respect your value, don't waste your energy trying to convince them of what they refuse to see. Let your actions speak. Let your absence teach the lesson your words never could. The strongest voice you'll ever have is the silence that protects your self-respect. Now let me leave you with the boundary that changes everything. The one that separates people who are constantly chasing love from those who naturally attract respect. It's this: be willing to walk away from anything that consistently steals your peace. That doesn't mean you give up the first time things get difficult. Every relationship will face challenges. Every two people will have disagreements. But there is a difference between working through problems together and repeatedly accepting treatment that destroys your self-worth. Too many people stay because they're afraid of starting over. They stay because they've invested months, maybe years, into someone who keeps giving them disappointment instead of consistency. They tell themselves maybe next month things will be different. Maybe if I try harder, they'll finally appreciate me. But how many chances do you give someone before you realize the pattern isn't changing? Hope is powerful, but hope should never become a prison that keeps you trapped in a situation that's draining the life out of you. Listen carefully. Walking away doesn't always mean you've stopped loving someone. Sometimes it means you finally started loving yourself. That's a hard lesson because the heart wants to hold on, even when the mind already knows the truth. We convince ourselves that letting go is failure, when in reality, refusing to let go of what's hurting us is often the biggest failure of all. Strength isn't measured by how much pain you can tolerate. Strength is measured by how much self-respect you're willing to protect. There comes a moment when you have to ask yourself a simple question. Is this relationship helping me become a better person, or is it slowly making me lose myself? Your answer will tell you everything you need to know. See, people who know their worth don't threaten to leave every time. They're upset. They don't use distance as manipulation. When they walk away, it's because they've reached a point where staying will cost them more than leaving. They understand that peace is priceless. Once you've experienced the confidence that comes from honoring your own boundaries, you'll never again settle for a relationship built on confusion, disrespect, or emotional instability. Here's something I've learned about life. The moment you become willing to lose what's not meant for you, you stop living in fear. Fear no longer controls your decisions because you've accepted that your happiness isn't dependent on one person. You stop begging, you stop chasing, you stop compromising your values just to keep someone comfortable. And that's when everything changes. People are naturally drawn to those who are secure within themselves. They notice the woman who doesn't panic when someone pulls away. They notice the woman who continues building her life, chasing her purpose, and protecting her peace, whether someone stays or leaves. That kind. Your own worth every single day. Because the woman who can walk away doesn't lose her power, she discovers it. If this message spoke to your heart, don't let it end here. Remember, the most powerful woman isn't the one who chases love. She's the one who protects her peace, honors her worth, and never lowers her standards for anyone. The right person will never be threatened by your boundaries. They'll respect them. So from this moment forward, stop begging for attention and start becoming the kind of woman who commands respect without saying a word. If this inspired you, like this video, subscribe for more life-changing motivation and share it with someone who needs this reminder. The moment you stop chasing validation, protect your peace and stand firm in your boundaries, everything changes. You no longer attract people who want to use you. You attract people who respect you. If today's message gave you a new perspective, don't keep it to yourself. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another powerful lesson. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it today, and let me know in the comments. My standards are not negotiable. Say it, believe it, live it until next time. Protect your peace, know your value, and never settle for less than the respect you deserve.